But it doesn't stop there for many religious people, and this is where it's starting to get a bit more nasty. Because some people live their life believing in an afterlife, but according to the thing that Mandy from Billy and Mandy the cartoon always says, it is not enough to succeed, others must fail. And that's where people start inventing things like hell and eternal damnation and condemnation of all sorts of kinds. Now that does make for a person being really, really unpleasant. If somebody sees fit to believe in a hell, that means that they must consider some people unworthy of eternal salvation in whatever way, shape or form. Now some people would try and pull their ass out of this one by saying something like, oh, but we're all unworthy, and it only extends, by accepting the grace that Jesus extends to us. Yeah, but it still boils down to the same thing, doesn't it, really? You say you've accepted the grace extended to you, and that then therefore makes you worthy, where other people are unworthy. It means that by doing this, by harboring this belief in eternal damnation, you see other people as less, no matter how much you try to deny that. But still, it is a relatively harmless thing. Okay, it makes the person holding such beliefs a bit of a nuisance and a bit of an asshole, but other than that, it doesn't do too much harm. There is one form of religious attitudes to death which is much more insidious, and that is the actual progressing from denying death to becoming a death cult. Now there are a number of different ways in which this can appear. For example, there is the cult of the suicide bomber that, for example, Muslims sometimes engage in. And Christians can do it as well. This is where people actually actively seek out death, not just for themselves, but they kindly spread it to the people around them as well, by exploding themselves in busy malls, for example. This is where it turns into a sort of worship of death that is absolutely abhorrent to any decent human being. This is where the disdain for reality, for the one life that people can verify, has become so great that they will end their current life for the false promise of something that might lie beyond. But it can get even worse than that. There are some people who would go as far as pretty much killing themselves out of fear for death. These are the people who start off by making noises that sound on the surface to be reasonable enough. They want you to stop fearing death because there are aspects of your personality that will endure beyond death. And of course there are. We all will leave behind some kind of a legacy, no matter how small it might be. Even if it only extends to the immediate members of your family, it is still a legacy. It's something of yourself that is left behind, that is left in existence after you physically die. Now there's no harm at all to get some sort of consolation out of this, to take this as something that'll make you come to terms with the fact that you are going to die. But some people take it further than that. They tell you that what you should do is self-identify with those aspects. And that is, in my opinion, an extremely dangerous thing to do. Because in the end, there is one thing that is most definitely going to die when you cease to breathe, when you die. And that is your personality. Your personality is what makes you, you. It is something that evolved for a very good reason. It evolved in nearly every higher type of animal. Even the lesser type of animals, so to speak, like for example cats and dogs, have a sense of personality, have a sense of me, I, self. And for people to say that you should kill that part of your person off in order to avoid the fear of death is, in my opinion, very like saying that in order to avoid being afraid of death, you should commit suicide. It is bizarre and absurd, and it's dangerous. You cannot expect people to go about destroying part of their personality in a vain attempt to pretend that death isn't real. I think such an attitude to life is even worse than that of a suicide bomber. I think it is a way of looking at reality that denies the very basics of what makes a human being a human being. It would make you avoid fear of death by making yourself less than a human being. How can that ever be right?